I'll tell you what I'd like to start with. There's a couple of meaty stories. I really would like to start talking about the American election. I had a couple of US stories lined up to play about Tim Walz, but I actually think TVNZ didn't do too bad of a job tonight on explaining what's going on. So let's have a look, listen to what they had to say about the VP choice, the potential VP choice for Kamala Harris made to try and beat Donald Trump.
Marching to a new beat, a freshly energized Democratic Party.
And they are.
Turning up in their thousands, braving the heat and rain for their presidential hopeful Kamala Harris.
Qualified to do the job. Doesn't steal, doesn't rape, things like that. Yeah.
I want to see change.
We're gonna win.
No, we're not going back.
No,
we're not going back. She's not the felonious thug.
I believe in democracy and freedom. That's really the bottom line.
Inside this 10,000-seat arena, the vice president introducing her own replacement if she wins the presidency.
Mm-hmm.
The Minnesota governor is considered a moderate amongst Democrats.
Which is a very interesting spin, because amongst the right, he's considered extremely far left. So this is a part of the conversation that we'll get into.
And a politician who turns up to events in a t-shirt and camouflage cap.
To his former high school football players, he was coach. The nation will know Coach Walz by another name, Vice President of the United States.
Democrats hope he'll appeal to rural America, who could be considering Trump.
These guys are creepy, and yes, just weird as hell. That's what you see. That's what you see.
And for people who don't know, he's the one that coined that weird phrase. So however all the GOP has been called weird at the moment, which is a great turn of phrase, he's the guy that coined it. Probably gave him a bit of a foot in the door to be the selection as well.
Well, Kamala Harris's rise to become the presumptive Democratic presidential nominee has reinvigorated her party. Her challenge will be convincing the millions of Americans in small towns and rural areas whose lives have become harder in recent years.
I'm still a conservative, but I will support the Harris ticket 100%. We have to purge the Republican Party of the crazy people. I'm sorry. I know some of you will be offended by this, but that's the way it is.
She's about to start an aggressive tour of states that could flip either way. Hot on her heels, Trump's VP pick, JD Vance, holding his own competing rally down the road earlier in the day.
Tim Walz's record is a joke.
Democrats believe they are in a battle for the soul of the nation.
Reproductive rights, civil rights, human rights.
We got to get this fixed before these nutties take it.
There's now just 90 days until the US election. Those here expecting it'll be one of the most consequential in modern history.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair, actually. It probably will be. So a few things about Timmy Boy. He is probably, if you look at the policies he's put through, the more progressive choice that she could have gone with. He's being attacked from the right already for things like tampons in boys' changing rooms, which is actually not even policy, but kind of an attack that hasn't worked thus far for the GOP. And the thing I'm really interested in, Clint, is, since the Bernie Sanders sort of revolution in the mid-10 years ago, the mid-teens, there's been a lot of us on the outside looking in and go, the system's rigged. They really just need to burn it to the ground. They can't keep doing this to left voters and expecting them to vote, because if they don't, the worst one will get in. And it does feel a little bit like this is a bit of a test case. We all know that left-wing policies are popular. Whether it's in America, background gun checks, or, whether it's in New Zealand, the capital gains tax or whatever. But you seem to get the corporate Democrat or the corporate Labourite, and they kind of keep it more centrist. That's not where he sits. He sits a bit further to the left. And so this could be a real referendum on, are these more left policies really as popular as the polls tend to say they are? So I'm fascinated by it. What about you?
Yeah. I think he's such an interesting choice, and everything we've seen of him today, he's one of these people who can express left-wing values as just common sense and kindness and just what a good, decent person does, and that's something that, a lot of, I think, left-wing leaders do struggle with, maybe, that they are overeducated and out of touch with the working class. But someone like this, you think in New Zealand of Savage or Kirk, or even contemporarily like Karen McNulty. They talk like ordinary people. They and they're prepared to not prepared to put up with any nonsense. He'll call these things out as weird and for him un-American, and say, no, that's not what our values are. Our values are kindness, not bullying. When you guys are the weird ones, and that you're all concerned with attacking trans people and all these things. You're not actually focused on what ordinary Americans who aren't driven by that kind of hate, what they care about. And so, I think he's a really good choice in that respect. And also Minnesota, has I think it's got the largest Muslim population percentage in America. So that's quite an important population for them to be shoring up. I think he's going to be quite a good pick for a number of reasons. And obviously the white male side of it, they needed that balance as well. So, I think it's a good pick.
So what you're saying is he's a DEI hire because, they needed to pander to the white male vote, didn't they?
Absolutely.
I'm making a joke, but it's exactly what it is. The only time they bring it up, though, is when the person in question has a brown face. When they have a white face and they've been employed for a specific reason to attract a specific demographic, that's just smart politics. If they've got a brown face, then it's a DEI hire. And the other thing about his record that JD Vance was talking about is, like, go for it, boy. Attack him on his record. He brought free school lunches into his state whilst the Republicans were voting down the family tax credit. Go for it. Go after him. I thought today about the only thing that will be more exciting, or maybe not more exciting, but as exciting as a debate between Kamala Harris and Trump will be frickin' Walz and JD Vance. I mean, God, that would just be like popcorn fest. I can't wait. I can't wait. The other thing, JD Vance has obviously become an embarrassment. Yeah. And there is plenty of credible sources saying Trump is annoyed and wished that he hadn't done it. And the way he's got around that is by saying you don't vote for the vice president. The vice president is basically ceremonial. They don't matter. But now he's stuck with a problem because either the vice president doesn't matter, therefore he's got no reason to go after Walz, or the vice president does matter and he has to own JD Vance. He's kind of stuck both ways. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And the reality is that Vance does matter for Trump a lot, because look at Trump's age. The odds that he won't be able to see out a term are quite high, and it's perfectly legitimate to say who takes up the reins if you can't complete your term. This really weird guy who he's had some funny stories made up about him in couches, but actually, like, what he says about himself is weird as well. So he's a very online right guy, and I don't think that plays as broadly as we get used to seeing those guys. We live in that online world as well, but actually out in the real world, it's guys like Walz who are much more normal.
I was thinking the other day as well, one fantastic result that there could be from my side of things, because I'm a bit of a sadist, but also, where I sit politically, is if Trump loses this and he's still here in 4 years' time, the utter egomaniac. Could you imagine him if he can get 3 sentences together? Do you not think he's going to try one more time as an 82-year-old? And what would the Republican Party do then? I mean, I just go like, if he loses, And, you know, let's just say it's 50-50 now. Harris does seem to be pulling a bit ahead, but it's a long way to go. Let's say it's 50-50. If he loses, I hope that he's still here in 4 years' time to actually give it another go and just finally put that Republican Party into the dirt where it belongs.
You know, I was thinking about this the other day. You know, we still think of Trump as being this aberration, but actually, it's been 12 years since the Republicans put up anyone else than Trump as their presidential candidate. He and what he represents is now deeply embedded. I used to think, you know, before Trump that, you know, the whole Nixon Southern strategy, right? It was very much the Republicans of the era were rich, educated elites, and they were trying to appeal to the poor Southerners. And it was kind of appealing to the rubes, basically, by running on racism and all those things. And they've been doing it for so long that the people they were basically trying to trick to vote for them 50 years ago are now the people who are actually running the party. It's, you know, what was once sort of just a tool to appeal to voters is now actually core of the party's beliefs. And
that's why you look at it, as you say, not an aberration, but a continuation of the line they were on. Trump is the obvious conclusion to what they started. And yeah, it does make me think as well what comes next. I mean, we are going to talk about this later when we talk about, you know, hoping for the days of John Key that they talked about on the working group last night. But I think about, you know, when there are lots of American commentators at the moment who are going, gosh, I saw this video the other day of George W. Bush, and he's like a Rhodes Scholar compared to Donald Trump, but what we used to think about him. And you can say the same for John Key and for Luxon, you know. How many of us wouldn't just give our left arm to have a John Key-led government right now if we had to have a national government, especially around, you know, Māori issues and that kind of stuff and what was going on there. And in my mind, I kind of go, okay, national went from John Key to Luxon, and then I think about their policies, and I go, America went from Bush to Trump, and I go, fuck, what's next? You know, what's the next jump going to look like, and how are we going to handle that?